All right, so we're going to get started. I hope you can see my screen and the slides. And my face is not going to show, but that's fine because we just want to focus on the deliverables today. All right, so today, this workshop, it's about 3 strategies all of my students use to get accepted into their dream colleges. And this applies to students who are in, 5%, 1% GPA rank, or even students who are not in that range, right? So this strategy really applies to all students so that they can get accepted into their dream colleges. So let's begin. All right. So before we get into all the action steps that I'm going to teach you today, let's do a little quick check-in here before we get started. You're in the right place this evening today if you want practical college admission strategies and pitfalls to avoid. You're also in the right place if you want some refreshing and proven strategies on how to make your child's college application stand out, even if your son or daughter doesn't have the best GPA or best SAT scores. But don't worry, the strategy that I'm going to teach you today still applies to students with high GPA and SAT scores as well. You're in the right place if you as a parent want a better understanding of the college admission process, because let's face it, there's just so much information out there. And now I hear so many parents saying, I don't know what information to trust or follow anymore. But lastly, and most importantly, you're in the right place if you want your child to be happy throughout this journey and not get caught up in the comparison trap and rat race. By this, I mean taking ACT, SAT, taking as many tests as possible, attending a bunch of expensive summer programs, and enrolling in a bunch of prep courses and tutoring, right? So, right now is May, and this is when so most of my sophomores and juniors are finished with AP exams. They just finished the last one today. And some of them they're just so overwhelmed because there's so many exams, right? So we want to make sure that throughout this journey, your child is feeling fulfilled. They are, putting in the work that makes them feel content, right? And not being pushed or demanded by external forces, right? Awesome. And okay, so here's the reality. The reality is that students and parents are bound to make some mistakes. The reason for that is so many parents and students try this and that and simply hope for the best in the application season, right? So by that, I mean they'll join this club and that activity, that summer program. And when it comes to the application season, they think, okay, it should probably make a good story, right? And second, following what's popular and accepting your friends or your senior friends' advice without even understanding what your value is, right? What's truly important to you. Third, moving through the college admission process with absolutely no clarity and simply trying to get as many things done as possible as if you're checking off like a shopping list, grocery list, right? And I hear you. You're probably falling into this pattern because you as a parent want the best for your child. You want to provide whatever you can within your knowledge and within your knowledge and the investment that you have. And you also want to make sure that you and your son or daughter give the best shot because your child only has one chance at this. Your child only has one chance to make this work, and we only get to apply to college once. And believe it or not, this time never, ever comes back. And here's a reason why you probably are attending this workshop and maybe you're feeling a lot of pressure and anxiety. And that's because getting accepted into college is becoming more and more competitive. And the acceptance rate drops every admission cycle. And that's simply because more students are applying. This is a Business Insider article that was published last year about how getting perfect scores on SAT, having top 5 GPA in SAT, in GPA in high school are just no longer enough. And this was published in 2017. And a month ago, USC released that they were only able to accept 13% of its applicants this year simply because so many top applicants applied. So take a look at the chart here. In 2014, the acceptance rate is nearly 18%, and this year, it was just a flat 13%. 5% drop. So to combat this competition, a lot of parents and students are now looking into professional guidance. And just last year in the United States, 400 million, if not more, was spent on private college consultants. But here's the thing, students are still getting rejected from Ivy Leagues and top tier colleges or just your dream college, even with the help of college admission consultants and professionals, and even with the best GPA and SAT scores. So here's a big question for today. Where is the disconnect, right? Who is getting accepted and who is getting rejected? And for those students who are getting accepted, what are they doing differently? And that's basically the core question that's going to be driving us today in this workshop. So let me tell you what is happening here. Most college counselors give very similar advice to their students. They'll say, get the best grade that you could possibly get, volunteer as much as possible and get those presidential awards. Attend summer camps and programs to keep yourself busy, get good grades on SAT and ACT and AP exams and SAT subject tests, and run for the president of your club and show leadership somewhere somehow. I'm here to tell you that these advices are no longer right, and they will not get you the results that you're looking for. The reason for that is because each and every student is so different. When the admission committees are reviewing your child's application, they will want to see something different and unique about your child. They want to see long-term patterns. They want to see long-term commitment that is authentic and real. So here's what is missing when students are talking to their college counselors, and they are beneath what we can actually see. And so I'm using this glacier image to give you a better idea, to emphasize that a lot of the suggestions and counselors generally recommend are surface level instead of digging deep. So here they are. Really diving into your major exploration, starting on a passion project because you want to. All of my students are working on their unique passion project right now, right? Identifying strong skill sets and making them stronger through experiences and opportunities. And also, managing time really well, managing stress really well. This is not even a skill that you need for college. This is a lifelong skill. And so these are all the things that we can't see, unfortunately, because we don't ask our kids, what is your passion, Sarah? Share them with me. We tend to just focus on the activities and the list and the resume. But what's really important here is identifying their inner values, inner skills, inner interest that no one else has other than your child. And speaking of passion, we tend to think finding passion is just so hard. And yes, it is. And so Angela Duckworth talks about when she was growing up, it was more about facing the practical realities and surviving in the real world rather than the message of follow your passion. And the point that she makes about our current and future generation is this: most young people don't need encouragement to follow their passion. Most students would do it in a heartbeat if they knew they had passion in the first place. So the question is, how do we enable our children to move through this process with passion? I'm going to talk about that very soon. So today, my workshop, a lot of you guys are jumping in right now. So today, my goal for tonight's workshop is really simple. It's to guide you through a proven system to get your child accepted into their dream colleges while identifying their values, their interests, and their passion. It's simple as that. So how do I know that? I've consulted over 500 students over the past 3 years, going on to my fourth, and 90% of my students got accepted into their dream colleges. And you know what? This is the thing. I myself got accepted into my dream colleges, UCLA, USC, and graduate school, Harvard University, even without the best GPA and SAT scores and GRE scores. So there is a secret here. And don't worry, you're in good hands tonight. I didn't just pull these slides together without any expertise and experience. It's been proven with my students, and I will share the case studies with you today. So just to give you a quick introduction about who I am, my name is Julie Kim, and I guide and mentor middle and high school students to get accepted into their dream colleges while helping them find their value, academic interests, and strong skill sets. To me, it's not about just getting accepted into the brand name college. It's about finding what you love to do and what you want to do, and then conveying that in the application. And the reason why I came to this system and this strategy is because when I got accepted into UCLA, to be honest with you, I went because of the brand name. I went because I knew that it was competitive. And I got into one of the best majors and competitive majors, business economics. And while I was there, I was really unhappy, really unfulfilled, and completely lost because my values didn't guide me there. My ego did. And as soon as I found out what I really love to do and what really drove me into my day-to-day life, I applied to Harvard and got accepted. And while I was there, every single day was still different from UCLA. I was motivated. I was really happy. And everything that I did was really purposeful, right? And so because of this background that I have, I help my students do just that. So let's begin. Now I'm ready to share my 3 action steps with you. The first step is to identify your child's values. In college essays and applications, that's what they're looking for. But keep in mind, if this step is not done, then my next 2 strategies will not work. So take out that paper that I gave all of you guys and try to take some notes here. So here are some questions to get your child started. And this is just a starter question. What do you love to do? What do you love? These speak to your child's passion. What are you good at, John? These speak to your profession. What does the world need more of? These speak to your child's mission. What can you get paid for? These speak to your child's vocation. So these are just some starter questions, as I mentioned, that I use with my current students. Of course, we definitely dive in more, but these questions will definitely give your child an opportunity to just sit down and think, yeah, what do I want to do in the future? What do I want to study in college? What do I want to learn more about? What do I want to experience more? And they might also ask, yeah, why do I want to major in finance or computer science or biology? Why? Why is that? Trust me, these are really, really simple questions, but they are truly, truly powerful and moving. And so how do you actually find your value? It comes from taking action. It's giving opportunities and experiences instead of just talking about it. When my students are saying, oh, I'm torn, I'm not really sure what I want to do. I want to learn a little bit about coding, but I also am interested in building robots. I give them both opportunities, and they have to experience it for themselves so that when they come back from that experience, we know exactly what next action to take. If the action is not being taken, then it'll just stay that way. And one of the mistakes that I see is, by the time student goes into their junior year, they're really trying to speed things up and enroll in this program and that program, but if you're really interested in something and if you are really confident that that's the direction you want to go into, it comes from a lot of failures. It comes from a lot of opportunities and experiences, right? The second one is step outside of your comfort zone little by little. If I were to tell one of my students, why don't you go ahead and, why don't we conduct a nonprofit literacy center? Because you love teaching, you love reading, and you love kids. Most kids, they end up saying, oh, I'm not really sure if I can do this, right? There's so many self-doubt involved in these kids. And so we need to push them a little at a time, little by little. And once you get to do something very little, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't do this before. Or they'll say, oh, it's actually not that bad. right? So enabling them and motivating them and giving them that trust and confidence that, yeah, it's okay to step outside of your comfort zone little by little. Third, creating networks with professionals to see what's beyond your imagination. When I was young, I used to think, okay, doctors probably stay in their office all day and they do surgery. But there's just so much that goes beyond the scope of a career or a major. Yesterday, I had a meeting with one of my potential students, and I said, why do you want to be a nurse? Because she said she wants to go into nursing program. And she said, because their work is not repetitive. And I was like, well, okay, what else? And that's all she said. She said, being a nurse is dynamic. And she also said that, oh, being a surgeon or a doctor is not. And I was like, okay, well, let's have you experience that, right? Let's get you inside of that domain so that you have a better idea. Right. And so that's why all of my students, they always, email professors, professionals, always get in contact with like outside of their community and their school, right? Because that's when they can give you another perspective because they are an expert in that field. And here's another important, 3 questions actually. The reason why I am so focused on finding students' values and interests and things like that, number one is actually because I don't want to torture my students. I don't want to say, okay, do this and that because it's good, it's going to look good for the application. I don't want to do that. That's not my job. If I knew that was going to be my day-to-day job, I wouldn't do this. Because I know that college is not everything, although it is an important milestone. Because why are we only talking about college as if that's the last thing that they're going to do? What about after college? Is college your final destination? So if you have a bigger picture in mind, you are better equipped to select colleges that are really, really good fit for you, right? And so we always think of the big picture, although I understand that, adjustments could be made. And what's the point of sending them to the best colleges, having them get straight A's, doing this, that, president, never sleeping, AP exams, when your child is not having fun, not motivated, not feeling fulfilled, not interested, but just doing what they need to do, not fascinated, and not challenged for good reasons, right? What's the point of it all? This is a journey that we need to take. And we want it to be a happy journey and fulfilled one. And I'm not just saying that value is important out of nowhere. This is actually what the colleges are looking for. So this is a common data set that is published by one of the Ivy League schools. And they use this chart to accept a student or defer a student or reject a student, right? So for this Ivy League college, and a lot of the top 100 colleges, they share very similar preferences. So if you look at the academic side, yes, rigor, AP classes, SAT, GPA are really important. But as you know, there's 4% acceptance rate, 6% acceptance rates, right? So if you go to the non-academic side, something's got to differ, right? So this is where that question comes in. What are the people who, those folks who are getting accepted, what are they doing differently? It's character and personal qualities. And you can't just show that by listing a bunch of activities. And you can't just portray your character by just saying, mentioning it and saying it in your essay. There needs to be an emerging pattern, and there needs to be a comprehensive and cohesive story to really show what kind of character your child possesses or personal qualities your child has, right? And so that's why value is so, so, so important, because it's the tipping point of whether you can get accepted or not. So without taking any action, there's, no value. It's hard to find one. If there is no value, right? If there is absolutely no value in your child's high school journey, we need to make sure that your child is taking action, right? So I want to share one of my students' story, and her name is Cindy. And she was a sophomore when she came into my program. And Cindy, like many students, she participated in every club possible because she was eager to take on everything, really motivated, right? On paper, everything looked awesome, everything looked great. So we started to identify her value questions so that we can align her value and her activities together. And she said she's not interested in doing anything. She's not, she's just doing this so that she can get this over with. And she said, life is going to get so much better after this when she gets accepted into junior college. So she felt really empty inside. So, I asked her my value question, major selection questions, and all of that stuff. And ultimately, we, one by one, step by step, we found out what she really wanted to do. And I gave her the opportunities and the resources to do so. After working together for 2 years and, of course, identifying her life value, not just for college, she got accepted into Cornell University to pursue her passion, real passion in international relations and women empowerment, because she was really, really interested in that area, right? And so she's also going to be taking classes in pre-law and business, and we'll see what happens. Right? So we don't want our students to navigate this process without feeling fulfilled and full, right? You want to move through this process so that you're thinking, yeah, I want to do more. Yeah, what else can I do, Julie? Can you give me more networks? Can you give me more opportunities? I want to do more, right? We want to see that synergy and that energy come through. And at this point, you might be thinking, my daughter, my son, they don't even talk to me anymore about their personal lives. And, the truth is that it is hard for high school students to open up, to their parents. And that's just the way it is. I'm not saying that this is true for everyone, but most of my students that I work with, they didn't communicate very well with their parents. And that's normal. And this is where mentorship come in. We open up about school life, career options, values, college lists, opportunities, experiences, major lists, and just so much more, right? So, what I realized, and this is something that I went through as well when I was in high school, is that students tend to open up to someone who is more of a mentor figure than to parents who can, easily place judgment sometimes. All right. So how can we find this value? It's about all the things that I just mentioned, the right opportunities, the right experiences. Because here's the thing, this might sound like, oh, if you were to give my child an opportunity, my child will flourish and blossom into this, really passionate person. But actually, it's very case by case. And let me tell you a reason why. One of my students, she was so interested in tutoring, right? Like education and teaching. And so, she started volunteering at Reading Partners, and that's what the one-on-one literacy program. And after a couple of times, she told me that, Julie, I really realized that this is not a good fit for me, right? And so she was able to eliminate the ones that weren't just going to serve her, right? She was always thinking that, maybe possibly that this will be a good fit. But, this experience enabled her to say, okay, this is not it. Okay, what can I do next? Right? And she's really now immersed in communications and marketing and journalism. Okay, so I would like to share another story that resonates with this action step. Okay, so take a look at the before box. So this student, Jason, he was focused on GPA, SAT, rigorous exams, basically doing what everyone else is doing, and was attending it was like a UPenn program that was suggested by Facebook group and friends by his mom, right? And he, like, Sarah said, it felt like a rat race. And when he said those words, I was like, oh my gosh, Jason, that's how I felt. Because all I cared about during my high school years was, okay, how can I get in, right? What's the next step, right? What are the quantitative, like, how can I meet the SAT scores? How can I meet the GPA? How can I meet everything? And after doing mindset work and value propositioning, Jason said no to a lot of things. He said, no, this is not a good fit for me. I need to make sure that it aligns with what I believe is important. And he only took courses that aligned with his values. He only applied to summer programs that fit with his interest. And he only focused on just one activity that he was fully immersed in, instead of doing 5-6 clubs or, sports or whatever. Right? All right. So First one was all about identifying value. Now it is about taking action. So how do we take action now that we've identified the value, right? So a lot of these concepts and terms could be a little bit conceptual and abstract. So I'm going to give you some concrete examples. And so you can write these down as these are, true case studies from my students. So here's value. I value debates and challenging discussions. I'm a little bit stubborn at times, right? So that's the value. Action. Join MUN and participate in national speech debate tournament and intern at a law firm. Second, I believe in the power of education more than anyone in this world. That's how passionate you have to be, right? Volunteer at Joint Education Project through USC and create math tutoring literacy centers to teach multiplication tables to fifth graders. This is an amazing, amazing project. And USC actually promoted this volunteering project and put it up on their Facebook page. And it was just, in terms of publicity and the attraction and the benefit that students reap from this program was amazing. Third, I like to envision that I can create something new. I love being creative. I love creating things, right? Most of my students sort of fall into this category, which I love because we can really get creative with anything and everything when it comes to passion projects. And so some actions that they took is learn how to code and create an app that solves a problem, right? So tracking CO2, we had that. We had someone create a vocabulary app for third and fourth graders in the academic in terms of academic language and academic vocabulary. Instagram projects. So two of my students are currently working on an Instagram project. One of them, she's doing an online clothing store. Really, really fun because it really explores an entrepreneurship side as well as her interest in clothes. And then one of my other students, she's doing a woman empowerment Instagram where she's going to make it sort of like the New York Humans Instagram account, right? And so a lot of my students are doing very, very different things. And we come to this conclusion through discussions and opportunities and experiences, right? It's not just like, okay, this is what you're going to do, And I use this map, I show this to all of my students when we first start to let them know that, there are so many things you can do on campus or off campus, right? But if your value is not being shown, or if your value is not what's guiding your decision to participate in this, but you're just doing it for the heck of it, then you're wasting your time, right? And so we always want to ensure that if we do something and if we tackle something, we always ask the question, why? Why do you want to do it? And I'll just make this really, really quick. Kevin has a really empowering story. And, as you can see from the screen, he got accepted into UPenn. When Kevin came in as a junior, so he came in pretty late. And what his parents were saying was that, okay, he has a couple of Bs already. And so he can't get into UPenn or Ivy Leagues, right? So he was looking at UPenn and Dartmouth. And here's another thing. Kevin already worked with a college consultant before. And what ended up happening to Kevin was that because they were so focused on the surface level strategies that I mentioned at the beginning of our webinar today, he was so worn out, right? And another thing was that he had no confidence to move forward. He says, oh, I'm not good enough, right? Like, this is not good enough. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, my job is not to demand my students what to do. So what did I do? What did we do together? Navigate Kevin towards identifying his values, his academic interests, and making sure that his passion shows through in his college application essay. You know why I said this to Kevin in the beginning? Because I knew he had something. There was something in him, but I knew that there was this, like, a lot of failed attempts, a lot of discouraging words from other people that let him down like that, right? And so we combined coding and startup entrepreneurship all together. And it was just amazing. He loved, and actually I told him to take one of the entrepreneurship classes, certificate program. And he was a little bit hesitant in the beginning. He was like, well, does this really have to do with coding and things like that? And he was like, he got into lesson 4 out of 8 and he was like, whoa, this is actually really, really interesting, right? So his college admission strategy was to combine entrepreneurship, business, marketing together with coding, right? So it was a wonderful, wonderful combination. And you might be thinking something like this by now. I just talked with so many parents. And so you might be thinking, my child is already busy with schoolwork. He doesn't even get enough time to talk to us or sleep and etc. Right? The process that I am teaching you today is not about let's get on as many things as possible. It's get rid of things that are not serving you and get to the core of what's really, really important for your child so that your child has more time, more energy, more, the way that your child is functioning, there's more clarity, right? So most of my students who are working on their passion projects, this and that, they don't have to stress out over going to this event and that event because they're doing something that they really want to do, right? So it's always quality over quantity. We're not just sure if this is the right way to approach college admission process. This chart that I showed you in the beginning, that from a common data set from one of the Ivy League colleges, what are they looking for as extremely important? Character, personality, that's value, right? They want that. That's the special sauce, right? And this is also very interesting. I keep saying everything is interesting, but Victoria's secret was this. So before she was volunteering at Senior Center, attended a biochemistry research program. It was like a 2-week program at UPenn. It's like $3,000. Helped out at her uncle's CPA office because she was like, okay, do I need to work? And then she was also in 5 different school clubs. And after our work, what she ended up doing, we ended up finding out, was that she was really interested in literacy development. And so she started volunteering as a reading tutor, which was like the first activity that she took on. And then because she was, finding things out, she was like, oh wow, like I don't understand why he can't read this or write this and etc. So she had a lot of questions during that experience. And then she took certified classes in child development literacy skills. So she became an expert in this field, even as a high school student, right? And then ultimately, as her last passion project, she created a club that connects tutors to students with little access to one-on-one math instruction. And you might be thinking, why math? Because in a lot of the math questions and problems that's now, they're incorporating literacy requirements, right? So students do need to know how to read and write even with math problems. Right. And so this was such a targeted research project and volunteering, project that she did, which really demonstrated her expertise more than anything. And she was really, really passionate about this. Now, here's the next action step, which is the final one for today. And it's to stand out by being you. Stand out with true authenticity, right? How do you do that? Number 1, please spend more time deepening knowledge and deepening knowledge and expertise in one area, right? Second, don't follow what someone else did or don't follow someone else's guidelines and footsteps just because it worked out for them. Third, start something that you're passionate about. Start your own project because you want to. Find the problem you want to solve. Find an issue that you want to tackle, right? And this one, I'm going to make it really quick. And for Sarah, she came in the second semester of her junior year. And she was interested in multiple majors. And you guys, I'm not really sure what age group we have here today, but a lot of my juniors who came into my program this few months, a lot of them didn't know what they wanted as their major because, they think, okay, it's going to be business, but business is impacted major, right? So it was, the major strategy played a big role for Sarah. Anyway, Sarah was interested in multiple majors because she was involved in a lot of things. And that's when she came into my program. And, she had really good grades, almost perfect SAT scores and things like that. But it wasn't making a clear story, right, from the admissions perspective. And another concern was that she was like, I really don't know how to express myself so that they really know who I am. Like I know who I am and my parents know who I am and my teachers know who I am, but how can I address that and express that in my essay? Basically, she needed to create an essay and write an essay that made sense and that made that created a beautiful story, right? And so the second issue was that, like I mentioned, she didn't know her major. And so this is what we did. And so you could take this out. I mean, you could, jot this down if you like, which is number one, lay out all of her current activities, resume, transcript, grade reports, right? Because I don't know if you know the Common Application System, but you can't, they only give you 10 spaces to list out all the activities and extracurriculars, right? And number two, we eliminated everything that wasn't going to align with her story, right? And then we created a strategy for her essay so that it conveys her values in life and academic interests and much more. And then obviously we did add in one more key activity, which is the passion project that would transform her an essay into an authentic story. So it was like, yeah, 10th, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I was interested in this and that. And then bam, right before her senior year, she launches her passion project that ties all of that story beautifully. Right? Sarah was accepted into U Chicago, as you can see from the slide. Okay, so we're going to try to wrap things up now, but I want to address this one question. Do you think Cornell admission committees or any college, admission committees will be impressed by this? 7 AP classes, 1,600 on SAT, president of student body government, pre-med summer camp, intro to coding HTML, and 300 hours of volunteering. So many students are like, oh my gosh, I have 400 hours of volunteering. So what? What did you learn? Right? What did you take away? Is it just the number that you're satisfied with, or do you really feel purposeful, right? You need to do that check-in. So do you think they'll be impressed by this if these activities are only driven by what looks good on the application? If nowhere in the application, in the essay, the supplemental essays, the main essay, that they don't address their character and personalities and values that guided them? I don't think so. And that's where the rejection letter comes in. And they're probably going to say, oh my gosh, what the heck? Why didn't I get accepted? And we see this a lot. Instead, these are the students that they're looking for, you guys. Why did you decide to participate in this? Why did you create this nonprofit? What subjects do you want to study and why? And why is that so important to you? How did you make an impact in your community? What do you value in education and in life? And these are essay questions. These are interview questions that your child needs to address anyway. So why not start? Why not start to discover and experience what's truly important? So there you have it. Key to getting your acceptance letter and making sure that you don't fall into the rejected criteria and category. Identify your child's values, make decisions that align with those values, and stand out by being you and showing your value, demonstrating your values in many aspects of the application. Awesome. Okay, great. So everything that I just talked about, you might think, okay, is that it? Is that the secret? This is just 1% of what really goes on behind the, one-on-one work and mentorship, right? So this is just literally, I would say, 1% of what we actually do. So what's next is this. I want your child to be able to apply these strategies, right? And I know you've been doing that with the worksheet, but if you need further assistance, what I'm offering is a 45-minute strategy session to evaluate your child's current portfolio. So that is academics, test prep timelines, school activities, volunteering, summer planning, gaining clarity aligned with your child's interests and values and passion and all that, right? So I am offering this if you need further assistance and also to see if we would be a good fit to work together or not, right? So I'm offering this, and this is really not for everyone, okay? This is for aspiring students who want to get accepted into their dream colleges and not just get accepted, but identify your true potential, skill sets, academic interests, and values. This is for motivated students who want to take their resume and college application to the next level by exemplifying expertise, commitment, and unique element, your special sauce. This is also for creative students. I love creativity during our sessions, right? Who are ready to create their own passion projects, nonprofit organizations, and businesses, right? And I just want to share a couple of feedback. Here's Aria's mom saying, my daughter started working with Julie because we really liked her approach. Julie's college consulting approach is different. She identified my daughter's passion and major so that she'd have more fun navigating through her high school years. And like she said on her workshop, being real and authentic got my daughter accepted into her dream college. The thing about Julie is that she goes beyond your expectations of a college counselor. She ensured that I remain positive and realistic at the same time. Despite joining the program so late into the application season and having absolutely no plans for summer, Julie turned my weaknesses into strengths. And, I don't know if you are inside my Facebook group, but I offer essay outlines, essay themes, recommendation letter suggestions, and things like that. And so I host these once a week. And, a lot of people are gaining a lot of, specific details and guidance so that, their questions are basically answered, right? And, it's not just about finding values, but the reality is we do have to consider, testing, right? So one of my students said, I got my SAT score this morning and I want to let you know that I got 7, 7, and 8. Thank you for all your help. I'm super happy with my score because I was really stressed out about the essay. So we do also provide academic resources and guidance in that area as well. And this one, I'm going to try to make it really short, but one of the things that she mentioned was this. Whether it is writing college essays or getting support for college interviews, I knew I was in safe hands. Julie's daily messages about essay revision deadlines and checkups showed me that she truly cared about my future. Counselor, so Chizu is my Korean name and she called me by that. So Counselor Julie is always inclined to assist with anything, even when I'm in lack of confidence and motivation. She understood the mental and physical stress seniors faced, and her warm and encouraging words alleviated the distress and comforted me. And this is an email that I got 2 weeks ago, and she just was in my program for 2 months, and she's a rising senior. And the mom emailed me saying this, my daughter is such a bright and smart young lady, and she's also very passionate and extremely kind. Julie, you are really supporting her, bringing the best out of her, and we truly appreciate that. This is not something any other counselors can do. And this is the kind of mentoring I was looking for my daughter. Thanks for not only helping my daughter in this college admission process, but for being her true partner, keeping her motivated, help her discover her passions, and much more. This is an experience for life for her, and you are a part of that. And this is only just 2 months, right? So I just wanted to share that with you so that you have a better idea of my approach and my values, right? So if you are interested in the 45-minute strategy session to see if you feel like you would benefit from this and you feel like will be a good fit because you are nodding yes, yes, yes to what I'm saying, you can go ahead and book that call. juliekimconsulting.com/dream-college. So dream college is not together. There's a dash in the middle. And all you have to do is pick a date and pick a time, and you'd be good to go. So I don't offer too many of these slots. So if you're interested, you can go to the website and then and get yourself a spot. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today's workshop. I hope that I didn't give you the surface level strategies, but it made you think a lot. I hope that it made you think, wow, like that's what's important in this process. Because yeah, it's easy to get caught up in what looks good on the outside, right? And so, yeah, I hope you took a lot from this webinar, and it's always my pleasure to deliver this. And this is what I feel passionate about as an educator. So, all right, so I'm going to stop recording, but if you have any questions, you can go ahead and use the Q&A button to ask me your specific questions, and no one will be able to see them. It'll just be me. And so I'm going to, let's see. Um,